does a great deal of work with climate justice.
Absolutely.
And, I know that some of our members are excited. They've joined the climate justice team
That's fantastic.
recently. Yeah, and but this is for whatever reason the area. I mean, I know this was not what we're going to talk about today, but I think it's important since we're already here. Is that there's this impression that climate concerns, climate justice, and this is big in the news right now. Joe Manchin is threatening, to pull his support from the infrastructure bill because of the inclusion of provisions around climate. But a lot of us think that, well, climate is just kind of like a white people's issue.
Hmm.
It's tree hugging. It's what is it? The Sierra Club,
Sierra Club, Conservation Society, all those things.
4F, all
Yeah.
that. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, that's not our thing.
Greenpeace. Greenpeace.
Right. But as we have said repeatedly on this show, that, the people who bear the brunt very often of climate injustice
Hmm.
look like us. And
Absolutely.
things get dumped in our neighborhood and are just left there sitting, I don't know, like the trash in Philadelphia.
I mean, let me just say something. So in climate and environment are actually deeply tied to each other. And I
Right.
think it's also fair to say that, we often think about, and especially as black folk, where we come on the air, right? So, we're going to hear folk talking about, how come you're not talking about gun violence today? Why aren't you, you're talking about climate, why aren't they talking about gun violence? Actually, the reason that the majority of children have asthma in Philadelphia is related to environmental conditions, not DNA.
Hmm.
Okay, it is the challenge that we have when we start dealing with the issues like lead-based paint in all these old houses that people haven't taken care of over the years, right? It's the conditions of former manufacturing companies that left chemicals in the ground that are in our neighborhoods that are causing problems for us right now. It's the fact that we live in the Delaware Valley. So that we live in a valley. So when air blows in from other places, the reason the humidity is so high and it gets so sticky and hot here and it takes forever to blow out is because the stuff comes
Hmm.
in, settles in, and stays there and doesn't blow out. So we have numerous days where the air condition is terrible for people who have asthma or emphysema or have other lung conditions or are suffering from other comorbidities, medical conditions. And so we have to face reality that climate impacts us disproportionately
Right.
than it does white folk in this country and across the world. Actually, the countries that we're going to lose as a result of climate are black and brown countries. The cities that are going to struggle the deepest because of climate are black and brown cities. And if
Hmm.
we don't get a handle on this and begin to get engaged in this work in a serious way, we are going to find ourselves with a bunch of people working to save themselves who do not look like us. And our folk are going to be
Hmm.
sitting there like, oh, how come nobody told me? We told you.
Well, like I said again, we've got to, the branding of it, I think, has been one that has branded it as an issue that is not marketed to us to be concerned about.
Right.
And we've got to change that. And, I put some of that even on the climate activists,
Oh,
the
yeah,
climate
absolutely.
justice activists
Absolutely will
who,
too. Yeah.
yeah, who, I don't know. I mean, let me just save those comments for another day.
No, I
So
mean, but I think that's fair, right? That
yeah,
has not taken in. I mean, there has been a lack of intersection with the climate and environmental world, with
right.
concerns related to African Americans, Latinx folk, Asian Pacific Islanders, Indigenous folk. Be it quite frank, they just haven't cared. Period. Let's just put it out there like it is.
Right. Well, and which is, very different than the kind of climate justice work that our team has been doing with Power. In fact, I
Hmm.
remember one of the marches that they did actually started at a black church in North Philly.
Yes.
They're walking through, showing how some of these power plants are impacting our community. And so, I mean, again, to center it right there and to bring it to people's attention that yes, while we should be certainly outraged about gun violence and about the, how filthy things are right now with the trash being out and not being picked up the streets, not being swept, and all of those things, you can't sleep on this one because so many. I mean, how many of us, know people who have died because of asthma who were very young,
Hmm. Absolutely.
teenagers, 20s, their 30s, their 40s, families just starting out and taken away because of asthma. I've said before, I lost a cousin to asthma who was in his 40s just a few years ago. And, I think it was triggered by all of those wildfires in California. But the fact that, it's no surprise that he grew up a few blocks away from all of the heavy industry in Oakland.
Right, right.
Right there off of San Leandro Boulevard.
Absolutely.
If you look at the map in East Oakland, San Leandro Boulevard, what's there? Almost all of the big refineries, dumping all of that crap on his house growing up. And so that has an impact on you. And so as much as we fight everything else, I mean, Black Lives Matter have to also matter with climate.
That's right.
And that is a different kind of fight. And so, you hear Joe Manchin is like fighting for fossil fuel. I mean, now look, at some point down the road, we've got to understand that fossil fuel, it's a limited, it's a diminishing entity. It's not you can't make any more of it, right? It's fossilized fuel, dead things. At a certain point, ain't gonna be any more. So we may as well start now investing in the new technology and new sources of power down the road. But it is much easier to satisfy all of the moneyed interests that are trying their best to make all that they can off of you and off of me with their $6 and $7 a gallon gasoline.
Absolutely.
That's already in California, bro.
Is it really? Has it got that high already?
God, yes.
It's getting high here again.
Oh, when I was home a few weeks ago, no. Again, mind you, I rented a motorcycle, which was great to get around, but it was $5+ a gallon in San Francisco. And I have seen people post now $6 a gallon.
Wow. Looks like our live feed just went down again, but I'm sure it'll be back up.
We've been attacked because we were about to talk about Trump trying to take over the election, the Reichstag.
Oh, my goodness. Yes.
Let's take a quick commercial break, and maybe the live stream needs a break. It's 6:20 in the morning. This is the Power Hour. We'll be right back on the other side.
Hey, Philly, unless you're planning on enjoying summer vibes in the same sweatpants you wore for the past year, it's time to change things up. That's right, that Philly summer feeling is almost here. The city is ready, and so are all the shops, restaurants, and museums you've been missing. Get vaxxed, get dressed, and get back to all the things you love about Philadelphia. Go to ReadySetPhilly.com today to plan your triumphant return.
Hey, WURD family, did you hear? It's official. The Colorectal Cancer Alliance just announced the new age for colon cancer screenings has been officially lowered to age 45 for everyone. If you are 45 or older, it's time to get screened. Go to WURDradio.com and click on the Go to Know banner to register for your free at-home screening test. Did you know colon cancer is largely preventable with on-time screening? And there's a 90% survival rate when caught early. African Americans are 20% more likely to get colon cancer and about 40% more likely to die from it than most other groups. So for the next 3 months, you can go to WURDradio.com and click on the Go to Know banner for your free at-home screening test. A screening navigator will contact you to ask a few questions and help you get screened. It's that simple. Again, just go to WURDradio.com, click on the Go to Know banner, and fill out the form to request your free at-home screening test. Go to Know today.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. This is Dwayne Royster along with Mark Kelly Tyler. We're here Monday through Fridays from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. to bring you the latest in news, happenings around Philadelphia, and of course, our opinions. And we have plenty of those.
Man, so one of the top generals is now telling us what I think we already knew and feared.
That's an understatement, my brother. That's an understatement. So this is actually General Milley, who took on Matt Gaetz in the congressional hearing not too long ago when Matt Gaetz was going off about critical race theory. And Milley was just like, no, we need to read it, and basically told Matt Gaetz to go take a flying leap. So there's evidently a new book coming out by two Washington Post reporters that are named, I just want to make sure I get the name, Carol Lunick and Philip Rucker, that are doing a book called I Alone Can Fix It, Donald J. Trump's Catastrophic Final Year. And one of the things that the book is going to expose and talk about is that General Milley, who's the chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, was increasingly getting concerned toward the end of Donald Trump's term that he was really concerned that, and other military officials were concerned that Trump was going to try to use the military to basically throw a coup and take over the government and try to install himself as president for life. And so Milley and others were really organizing and trying to figure out what to do. Nancy Pelosi was having conversations with the chair of the Joint Chiefs, which was actually a little bit unusual in the context of the conversation. Certainly she could talk to the chair of the Joint Chiefs, but in the context of the conversation, it was very problematic. And so this was basically what they referred to as a Reichstag moment. Milley said that this was the Reichstag moment, and this was from the book, The Gospel of the Fuhrer. And this was basically a moment when Hitler took over the country. He had been jailed. He had been, oppressed, and then he came out and then kind of swept through and took over the country and really deposed the leadership that was already there. And so he was afraid that this was going to be issue. Evidently, General Milley called General H.R. McMaster, who was the national security advisor, didn't last very long under Donald Trump, and basically was like, what's going on? What am I dealing with? And I can't repeat exactly what Milley said on the air because the FCC will come in and find us. But there was evidently some real concern there. And the Milley had basically determined that he and other military leaders were going to make sure that the military was not used as a vehicle to enforce a coup in the country.
Well, I mean, look, who's surprised by this story? Like,
Nobody.
Is anybody surprised? And the thing is, his supporters are probably disappointed that he didn't attempt a coup with the military.
Mm-hmm.
See,
he did attempt a coup.
I said with the military.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he did, a coup was attempted, but the military was not going to have any part of it. Not the top brass. I would imagine there would be some who might. But, this gets back into the deeper cultural, this is what I was saying all along, is that I felt that people who were in those kind of positions would just nod and grin for him in meetings and then walk out and say, this dude is absolutely crazy. If he ever asks you for the nuclear code, don't you do it. Call me. I got this. You know what I mean? It's like, that's probably like day one to whoever it is who ultimately has to turn that key. It's like, son, young lady, don't do it.
Wow.
Just do not ever touch that thing because this dude is retarded. I mean, well, I'm sorry. I shouldn't say that. Oops. He is unstable.
Yes.
He is
narcissist. I mean, I think just to be honest, right? That's they've given the right title for it.
Yeah. Look, I mean, my man is just the fact that we survived 4 years of Donald Trump is a testament to, I think sometimes we just underappreciate how deeply, we've been doing this for a couple hundred years now. And we've had people who have been unstable before. Richard Nixon, a lot of people, but Nixon probably stands out the most in our generation because we had a chance to see it in real time. I'm certain that there were others who were like Nixon, but because you didn't have media, you didn't have the kind of ways in which, we just didn't have all of the kind of ways that you could kind of document it in real time. But we are at a place now where Donald Trump was such an outlier and he was such a loose cannon that, again, just the cultural, I think, support systems around him were only going to let him go so far. So I am not surprised at all to hear stories now, the military. I would imagine there are a lot of other stories that if people were willing and had the courage to talk about it and put it out there, that people may be shocked, but I wouldn't be shocked. There was a story that he said that, who did he say should be executed?
Who's that?
Trump.
I forgot who that was.
Someone who leaked something.
Yeah, I don't know who it was. Yeah,
maybe one of our super producers, producing PAs, can post that. But there was a story that also came out in the last week where someone who leaked something, they say, Trump floated the idea that the person should actually be executed. I guess he believed it was treasonous.
He was treasonous, but yes, I mean, I wouldn't doubt that he would. I mean, and anybody that defies him is treasonous, right? So, absolutely.
Yeah, we survived, you all. I mean,
but here's the thing: we survived, but there's still a lot of people that want him back.
Well, but those people have always felt that way.
Oh my God!
I mean, that's why they call democracy an experiment. This is an experiment. We've been experimenting with it, right? And it continues. I mean, look at the overarching history, right? That we have continually, the table has continually gotten bigger. And from the time it started getting bigger, there has been a group that has continually been upset with that. The people who set this thing up for themselves, white male landowners who are wealthy.
That's right.
Who never wanted the table to be bigger than themselves. The rest of us were to be subservient. Poor whites were indentured servants. Blacks were enslaved. Native Americans, indigenous people were run off out of the paint in the early form of gentrification, and that was it. But the table, right, but the table got bigger, and then the table got bigger, and the table keeps getting bigger, and yet there is the group that always wants, I mean, that's what the Civil War was about, right? I don't know, man.
I mean, that's what this voting rights thing is about right now, right? So it's like, if we can make it so that those folk can't vote, then we will have white minority rule in this country, right? And that's really what they're trying to get down to, is can we get to white minority rule?
Apartheid.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's not only apartheid, but I mean, here's the thing. So we have our own role to play in all this right now, too, to be quite frank with you, because here's the, and I know I'm about to really tick a whole lot of people off. However, black folk and brown folk and API folk and indigenous folk, in and of themselves, no group is larger than white folk in this country.
Mm-hmm.
The only way we actually have more power and more votes is if we create a coalition across black and brown and Asian Pacific Islander and indigenous and actually poor and working class white folk, right?
And it's not just poor working class white folk. There's a lot of well-off white folk who think that stuff is like, too far for them too.
Right. So here's the thing, though. If we want real power in this country, because we only constitute, we're not even 20% of the population. If we want real power, we have to partner with other folk to be able to build out that coalition that actually has the power to win.
Mm-hmm.
And so and I understand we need to make sure that African American folk get what they need, and Latinx folk get what they need, and the Asian Pacific Islanders get what they need, and indigenous folk get what they need, and that white folk that are down with the coalition get what they need. But we have to work in partnership with other folk to have the power to win. And I think that white folk are exploiting and working to drive division between the communities so that we cannot work together and then have a dominant political force in this country. This is part of the work of power, right? We are a multiracial, multi-faith, multi-social economic coalition of people, and it's hard to work in that space sometimes. It's easier to be in homogeneous communities. However, homogeneous communities in and of themselves, by themselves, will not get us to the win that we need. We've got to cross some bridges. We've got to meet folk in the middle somewhere. Mm-hmm. We've got to find ways to build out together and have vision together about where we want to go. Otherwise, we will have white minority rule in this country for the next 200 years.
Well, I mean, you said it, but it's about doing the tough work, right? Mm-hmm. It is much easier, as you said, to just stay in your own silo.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like I'm with my people, with my tribe. And once I'm in here, I know I can talk about anybody I want to talk about because it doesn't matter because, we all think alike, which we don't. But there's just that assumption that we do. And so it is about getting with these like-minded folks. So Sandra Fields agrees with you. She says, divided, we fall. Greg Brinkley asked the question on Facebook, what is the Democratic strategy to combat the Trumpers? And I think you just laid it out. That, first of all, you have to win and you have to keep winning.
That's
right? So Georgia is going to be critical in 2022. Raphael Warnock keeping that seat.
That's right.
Stacey Abrams winning as governor. Florida is going to be critical. Val Demings is running against Marco Rubio. He can be beaten, and she is certainly I mean, like, he's not going to be able to make her out to be, oh, she just wants to get rid of all the police. Like, dude, she used to be the police chief in Orlando.
Right.
So, but so she has the credentials to talk about with credibility the need for deep reform in policing, without them being able to attach a lot of the things that they've like hung on Democrats that were actually successful in the last election. So you have some races that are coming up. So what's the strategy, Greg? I think, first of all, you win the races that you have to win, right? So you must, so obviously the White House is not in play for another 3 years. So that's not on the table right now. What is on the table? The U.S. House of Representatives, every single seat is up for re-election next year, as it always is every 2 years. Secondly, the U.S. Senate is in play, and according to the map, it looks pretty favorable for Democrats. And so if there's not a race in your state, but PA, there will be a race in our state. We have an open seat. You got a chance to flip the Senate, Senate seat.
Yep.
Who's running?
Well, there's a whole bunch of folk running. So State Rep Malcolm Kenyatta's running.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman is running.
Yeah.
The Penn professor Ortiz, I can't remember, Dr. Ortiz is running. He just announced the other day. Those are the ones that I know about. Oh, so Doug Mastriano, who was the insurrectionist that was at the White House, is evidently going to throw in on the Republican side.
Oh, okay.
There are probably a couple of Republican senators that are going to throw their hat in the ring as well. So that's everybody I know thus far. But they're rumored to be some more folk that are going to make that run.
Well, let me just say, as a registered Democrat, lifelong, I don't care if the person, if the winner of the Democratic primary for the Senate is a ham sandwich, I'm voting for it.
I hear you.
All right, I'm voting for it. You know, Rob Garland says he was hoping Josh Shapiro would run for the Senate. Yeah, you know, I think it would be an easy run for him. But he, for whatever reason, I think he's locked in on the governor's race. I think he's, you know, he's probably got other ambitions beyond that. Oh, yeah, Senator Street is running as well.
Oh, did he announce already? Okay.
He's got an exploratory team.
Does he? Okay. I mean, that was who I was thinking about. I didn't know if he had actually announced or not.
Well, I don't know. Let me just say, it is strongly believed that he will also run. So you got some good contenders, but what we cannot afford to do is say we didn't get the perfect candidate, so we're not showing up.
Right, we're letting the good be the enemy of the perfect, be the enemy of the good, right? Yeah.
This man across from me in his virtual studio just told you that the person who will likely get the Republican nomination is a person who said that we in Philadelphia in particular stole the presidential election.
He's trying to do an audit right now, like they did in Arizona, in Philadelphia, Montgomery County, and Allegheny County. Any idea why those particular counties?
So I'm just simply saying, bring the ham sandwich and let's get to voting.
Yo, that's real right now. That's real.
Right.
Yeah, Mastriano. Oh, okay. Yeah, that is. You're right. Tawanda said Mastriano's running for governor. You're correct about that. Mastriano is planning on running for governor. Well, I think he's bouncing back and forth between the two. I think he's trying to, figure out his odds.
Look, there'll be somebody out there who is raising the Trump banner, trying to run for the Senate and trying to run for the governorship. Because in Pennsylvania, look, PA went to Trump the first time. So you're not going to come in as a moderate Republican and get the nod in Pennsylvania. You're going to have to be farther to the right than even Donald Trump was. And so you can only imagine who they're going to put up for both of those seats. And I'm just simply saying that, you asked what is the strategy. The strategy is you begin by winning what you must win. It's like tennis, right? You have to hold serve. When it's your turn to serve, you got to win that. Is it a match set? Whatever. You got to win that game.
All right? Game set match. Yes.
Right. So you got to win your game when it's your. Don't let somebody break your serve. This is set up for Democrats in Pennsylvania right now. You got a Democratic governor. You look at the House and the Senate. You're like, well, what's that about? That's gerrymandering. But in a straight up and down two-person race statewide, if Democrats turn out, they win.
Right.
Period.
Yeah, but folk got to turn out. It's that song, turn out for what? Your life is on the line. That's what it is. Your life is on the line.
So Greg says, don't leave that strategy to demo Republican Brady. Look, this ain't got nothing.
I agree with you on that one.
Well, but I'm saying, look, this ain't about Brady. This ain't about the Democratic machine in Philadelphia. And what I don't want to happen is for us to get caught up on that part. And I understand that those politics are real as well. But there comes a time where even the people that you have deep disagreements with, you have to lay down those for a moment and rise to the higher calling. And you know what? We can fight with them. We can fight with them forever after November 2022. Mm-hmm. But until November 2022 is over, you know, we're rocking together because at least on this one thing we agree, and we're locked arms, and we're going to march, and we're going to sing Kumbaya, and we're going to, you know, win this seat. And then after it's over, we can then everybody go back to your separate corners, and we can fight it out again about how jacked up our stuff is. But right. That's the strategy. Yeah. And it is a very simple playbook, but for some reason, Democrats seem to mess that up all the time. And there's no reason Pennsylvania should not have 2 Democratic senators within the next 13 or 14 months. None.
I totally agree with you. If we can't take what happened in 2020 and flip that into another Democratic seat for the Senate, I question you know, what our state is thinking about. I really do.
Well, it's in our hands. It is not in Brady's hands. Mm-hmm. It's not in the Democratic machine's hands. It is not in the boogeyman or boogie woman's hands. It's in our hands and in our feet. And we've got to organize, and we don't need to wait until September of 2022 to do it. We know there's an election coming.
Got to do it now.
Let's start registering people to vote. Let's start working on turnout plans. Now we have a year and some months in advance. That's how you win. That's how you keep winning. And that is what we need to talk about every single day, because having a Joe Biden and a Kamala Harris in the White House means nothing if Mitch McConnell gets control of the Senate again.
That's right.
Nothing.
Right, because everything will be stopped.
So that's exactly right. And you got to be, this is how you check Joe Manchin. Yeah. Get at least one.
You make him irrelevant. You make him irrelevant, right? We have enough Democratic seats. His vote becomes completely irrelevant, and he becomes irrelevant. Right now, he's getting all the spotlight. But you get enough Senate seats in there, Joe Manchin's irrelevant. Joe Manchin can go kick rocks and do whatever because nobody will really care what Joe Manchin thinks.
Boom. We got to take a quick commercial break. It's 6:41 in the morning. It's hot, it's steamy, it's muggy. This is a great day to be at the shore. But just watch out for those hypodermic needles being washed down from New York City. Wear your flip-flops, since you talk about kicking rocks and flip-flops. We got to go to break. We'll be right back on the other side.
The holistic colonoscopy. No IV sedation. Your colonoscopy is due. You don't have someone to drive you home. You don't want to drink the prep. You don't want to be sedated with the Michael Jackson drug propofol. Does that sound like you? Call Blake Gastroenterology at 215-849-4902. Visit the website www.jsblake.com and make your appointment today. Drive yourself home after the holistic colonoscopy.
The Sweet Treat Hut is the highest rated juice bar in Philly, located on the corner of 50th and Thompson Streets, providing delicious, healthy vegan food, juices, and smoothies. Treat yourself to a cup of happiness. Call 215-877-1471.
Join Nick Taliaferro Wednesday, July 21st at 5 p.m. for a very special simulcast conversation on WURD and WVON Radio in Chicago. Hosted by WURD's own Nick Taliaferro and WVON's Matt McGill and Kimberly E. Goen on the impact of violence in Philadelphia and Chicago. That's Wednesday, July 21st at 5 p.m. exclusively on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com. Simulcast on WVON. Two of the only black-owned talk radio stations in the nation join forces for a powerful and timely conversation. Now, a traffic update on WURD Radio.
Good morning. This report sponsored by Indeed.com. Volume getting busy. Schuylkill Expressway eastbound Blue Route through the curb. Westbound Broad to Pass Young jam through construction. City after Belmont a bit slow. Westbound Vine from Parkway through the Schuylkill Expressway. Delays there building up. Southbound 95 getting jammed from Common down through Bridge. Again, Allegheny through Girard is slow right. Northbound you're jammed up in Delaware County from the Commodore Valley Bridge to Kirtland Street. Right lane construction there. The reason 295 northbound from Mount Holly up to Florence. That jams because of construction. 55 north that heavy Deptford in the 42. Shifting hiring gears with Indeed, and they go beyond the resume with 135 skill tests that help candidates show their abilities on things like computer proficiency or customer service. Indeed's skill tests reduce hiring time by 27% on average. Visit Indeed.com/credit. For more traffic information, log on to SIGAlert.com. Jim Bachman with your Philadelphia area traffic.
Now, a word weather update. Here's NBC 10 First Alert meteorologist Bill Henley.
Mostly sunny, hot and humid today, up to 93 degrees. It will feel like it's in the upper 90s with the high humidity. A slight chance of a late day shower, and mainly dry overnight tonight. Down to 76 Friday morning, a hotter day tomorrow. 95 with sunshine will feel like 100 degrees. Clouds building on Saturday with a chance of late day showers and thunderstorms, and still steamy, up to 95. I'm NBC 10 First Alert meteorologist Bill Henley.
You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. This is Dwayne Royster along with Mark Kelly Tyler. I just went just because somebody had mentioned, I think it was Greg that had mentioned that white folk are not the majority in this country. And so I just needed to go, I had to go pull up the stats just so I could break this down. So 57.8% of the U.S. population is white. 18.5% of the population is Hispanic or Latinx. 13.4% of the population is black. 5.9% are Asian, 1.3% are indigenous or Native American, and 0.2% of the population are Pacific Islander. So, and that doesn't include folk that would be biracial. So this number doesn't include, it's 2.8%, 2.8% multiracial. So actually that takes us to about 43% of the country are people of color at this point in time. So we're not quite the majority yet. We are working our way there and very quickly. It'll actually be interesting to see what happens when the 2020 census comes out, because that census was all jacked up because of Trump, defunding it. And see, Republicans don't like the term defund, but Trump was actually very good at defunding things. So we'll have to take a look and, try to figure out what is what's what. So, it was 18.5% are Hispanic in America, which actually is a larger group than African Americans. We should also note that as well.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But again, because they come from so many different countries, talk to them. I mean, you're talking about trying to get black folk together, man. It's even more challenging because, right. I mean, again, we kind of understand them as one group, but they're like, oh no. That's them. I mean, and so you're talking about vast differences between places like Puerto Rico, Cuba, Mexico, Guatemala, the Dominican, Spain, right? So we kind of just simply say, if you speak Spanish, you're all like one group. We're going to treat you the same. But within that group, there are just so many, divisions in and of themselves. And so, but at the end of the day, whites in this country, the way the country is moving, will soon they'll still be the largest minority, but they won't have the majority just by their own numbers. Right. And so I'm looking at so that kind of brings up this too, because that's reflective of Pennsylvania, right? So PA, you come into Philadelphia, you think, if you think this is what Pennsylvania is, then you're sadly mistaken, because once you leave it, Raphael says it's Kentucky. I've heard other people say it's Pennsyltucky, or it's, Pittsburgh and Philadelphia and Alabama in the middle, whatever that means.
James Carville said that, yeah.
Right, but actually there's a lot of black folk in Alabama. They actually have more black people in the U.S. House of Representatives than Pennsylvania does.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, wow. Alabama and Mississippi, too. But the question that they're raising on Facebook right now, going back to the earlier conversation about the U.S. Senate race and the governor's race, is I think if I'm following this correctly, the suggestion is that because it's quote unquote Kentucky in the middle, that all these black candidates need not apply. I will remind you that one Barack Obama, who was absolutely black, ran for the president of the United States and won Pennsylvania handily twice.
Mm-hmm.
A black candidate can win in Pennsylvania statewide.
Yeah.
But you have to be, you have to be the kind of candidate that understands how to run statewide.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And so it can happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was actually interesting. Barack Obama is actually the only black candidate that has won any statewide office, and statewide, race in Pennsylvania. So, in terms of the governor, in terms of any of the growth seats, huh?
Kamala.
Well, I mean, it's VP, yeah. I'm talking about, but I'm thinking about just statewide seats, not federal office, right? Statewide seats. There's been no black person that has won any of those seats, including Lynn Swann, who ran as a Republican for governor some years ago. Some of you remember Lynn Swann from the Pittsburgh Steelers. He fashioned himself a politician and ran, I don't know, maybe 30 years ago for the governor of the state of Pennsylvania, but he didn't make it. There's not been a black politician that has been actually able to win a statewide either governor seat or attorney general or state auditor general or treasurer or anything of those natures. So, we still have ways to go in terms of winning some of those seats. We have not had a black senator from Pennsylvania yet either. We haven't had a female senator from Pennsylvania for that matter. And we had a great chance to do, a couple of great things, get a female president and a female senator from Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania said no. Put all the white guys that were Democrats in office, but said no to the two white women that were Democrats. So, I just think it's a real challenge for us to imagine and, see how that happens. But you just never know. I mean, like you said, it's got to be the right person with the right message and the right touch to be able to get across the country and make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, listen, PA is poised for it, and don't get me started on my whole, riff on Pennsylvania itself. The fact that we've never had more than one black House member at a time. I call it the Robert Nix seat.
Yeah, that's the one Dwight Evans sits in now, right? Congressman Dwight Evans.
Yeah, it's the Robert Nix seat. Nix had it first, then passed it on, and then passed it on. And it's kind of like, hey, you guys get 1 out of 20. And I think we're going down to 18 or 19 now. There's a total.
Yeah, dropping a seat, yeah. I
think
we're going to 17. Yeah.
17, right. So, yeah, because I'm adding in the 2 Senate seats with the 20. But, yeah, so we're going to drop down, and that only makes it even more challenging. But my feelings on this, that Pittsburgh should have given us a black representative at some point. Some of these areas like the Lehigh Valley and even in Philadelphia.
Well, okay, but the Lehigh Valley, so here's the thing in Lehigh Valley. So our friend Greg Edwards ran for Congress up there.
Mm-hmm.
Greg was doing well. And there was a choice made by a certain nonprofit group, but it's not a nonprofit group, certain PAC that supports white women to basically kill his campaign so they could get a white woman in the office up in the Lehigh Valley, which is exactly what they did. Mm-hmm. And, I think, Reverend Edwards is well known up in the Lehigh Valley. He's, quite active up there, politically astute, and got his seat killed as a result of that, his chances for that, because there was a priority on getting a white woman in over getting a black man in. And that's part of the problem with Pennsylvania.
The Republicans in Pennsylvania, like everywhere else, are trying everything they can within their power to strip us of every mechanism that worked in our advantage, early voting, everything else, to try to make it, less competitive in these statewide races. And so every single day we need to be thinking about how is it that we're going to get maximum turnout? How is it that we're going to get people registered who may think they can't register? And what is the turnout plan? It is not too soon to talk about this. And this is absolutely the time. When we come out of summer, September, after Labor Day, everything should be focused on turnout for next year.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, so I just finished conversations with folk at Power. I mean, so we don't support candidates, right? So let's just be clear. Power Interfaith does not support candidates, but we do support issues and the concerns that we have.
Right.
And we are going to be starting in September our preparation and plans for the 2022 election. We'll have some trainings and things that are coming up for folk that they might be able to attend and learn. And if you want to grow and you want to participate in a way that's meaningful and relevant to the issues that concern you, folks should get connected with Power as well, because we're going to run a full throttle campaign. In 2020, we reached out to over 2.5 million Pennsylvanians about getting out to vote. We actually talked to about 700,000 folk in that time frame between phone calls, door knocks, texting, tweeting, well, not tweeting, but and social media tools that we use to get folk registered to vote. So we're actually planning a bigger outreach campaign for the 2022 election, and we're on it, man. We're going to be fighting. It's not just 2022 election, but then we also have to fight Pennsylvania from trying to do and pass a constitutional amendment through ballot initiative that will actually codify in the state constitution voter ID and a bunch of other draconian voter laws as well. So we've got a big fight ahead of us. And I'm not kidding when I say our lives are literally on the line in this election. That's what we're up against.
Gun violence money in the infrastructure bill that Republicans want to strip out. Climate justice protection,
right.
Addressing the issue of wages and the wage gap, these poverty wages are working on, health care for everybody, quality housing. You are absolutely right. Our lives are on the line, so we should act accordingly. I'm telling you, we are not going to wait. Power doesn't support candidates. We're not here speaking for Power today. We're here speaking for ourselves. I support candidates, and I am voting even for a ham sandwich for the U.S. Senate in 2022. Go ham sandwich.
I thought you were going to say you're going to vote for Mickey Mouse. But anyway, okay. Well, thanks, everybody. We appreciate you all being here with us on the Power Hour today. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. to bring you the latest news happenings around Philadelphia and, of course, our opinions, which we have plenty of those. Thank you, Dr. Tyler, for everything that you do each and every morning. Thank you, Croesa, for holding down the boards and making sure that we are on the air and that everybody can check us out. You can check us out on the air, through the app, through Alexa if you need to, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and by so many other means. We deeply appreciate you for checking us out and listening to us. Now stay tuned for Wake Up with Word with Solomon Jones and Family. Do us, yourselves, your family, everybody you know and love and favor. Go out, change the damn world, because if you don't, nobody else will. Peace.
I got eyes in the back of my head, just in case.